Okay. So I think we can start now. I welcome everybody who can make it in this time of the year. So again, wish you a happy new year. This is our third workshop on the Central European Urban Resiliency, and this project is supported by the Visegrad Fund. As there are not so many colleagues here now, I would like to ask our guests who are not part of the team to introduce themselves in just 2-3 sentences, because I know Lajos is a colleague, or Valeria, for example, but I don't know anything about you, Lajos. So please, Lajos, could you tell me a little bit about you and your professional field?
Let's speak Valika. It'll be better.
Okay.
Okay. I have to tell that Lajos made a good progress in English, so I don't know why is he so shy. But he's a long-term expert in the field of local development and regional development. Also implemented through the years many projects on tourism development, and especially the form of sustainable tourism, which means water tourism and cyclotourism, small scale tourism, of course. So this is his professional field.
That's great. And let me ask about the geographical experience. Is the geographic experience of Lajos relates to Slovakia or beyond Slovakia as well?
It is our region, actually. So it is the Rye Island region.
Okay.
A little bit the other part of Danube. It's a Szigetköz region.
Okay, thank you. I'm asking this because we have a lot of projects under planning. And if I know who the professional fields around these regions that are eligible for Interreg funds, I can make some connections in the future with the other project members.
I definitely recommend Lajos if you come upon a tourism development program.
Okay, great. So we have a new guest as well. And I see, at least on my screen, Lorelai, which is a beautiful name. Could you please tell us something about yourself and your professional field? Maybe she's scared, I don't know. Okay, Lorelai is trying to, I hope to fix some problems, but I see Angelica as well. Angelica, can you talk a little bit about yourself? Oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, no problem. No problem. Maybe it was a surprise. Well, but I see Daniel connecting. Daniel, can you hear us? I know Daniel is from the 3rd district of Budapest. You're muted. Okay. So, well, so far it's not a big success with the microphones.
Good morning.
Okay, hi, Daniel. Daniel, I hope you can tell something about yourself. I know you, but there are a lot of good people here, all experts in the field, different fields of urban development. So please, just a few sentences about yourself and your professional fields. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Daniel Horváth, and I'm responsible for urban development project in municipality of Óbuda-Békás-megyer, district 3rd district of Budapest. We are here, 3 of us, in the office. We are working at the urban development company of Óbuda-Békás-megyer municipality, and we are very interested in the different projects that you send you in the agenda. First of all, we have a meeting now about the urban farm project, because we managed to apply for Interreg financial support, and we managing and dealing with urban farm issues. So we joining for this meeting, first of all, to get information about first of all the urban farm in Czech Republic.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. And I remember that you are one of the consortium members in that Interreg project. Please remind me, which kind of Interreg program is that? Is it Danube?
Central Europe.
Central Europe, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me take the occasion that we are happy to visit your events during that project, if there are any open events in the future.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think we can start with our first presentation today. And this is kind of an extraordinary situation. And Marcel is always here, but right now he has a board meeting at the university. And unfortunately, he didn't know that, but he recorded. He's a very smart guy. He recorded his presentation, and I will share the screen so we can start with his presentation as planned. Just let me have a moment to start that. Okay, Valeria, you are our tester colleague, so I hope we can work this out together. Again, I ask you, Valeria, to indicate it whether there is any problem with the video. Okay, so I look at you on the screen while I'll start this.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure and honor to address this gathering of practitioners and scholars again. Today I'd like to talk about the topic that deals with urban farming, which can be a way to urban resilience. And it's basically a description of several projects that try to deal with the topic of ensuring food sovereignty in urban places. What could food sovereignty mean? We know that countries could meet its food needs from its own domestic production, which is a rather counterintuitive idea these days when we import basically all food production. In the Czech Republic, we can see a dramatic decrease of agriculture production after the year 1989. And we know that the development of transportation has a huge impact on the environment. We can also see that the impact of globalization is significant regarding the food production. And because of this fact, we know that the food self-sufficiency has dramatically declined in the past few years. Moreover, the European Union supports free movement of goods, which actually encourages food imports from other countries. What could the benefits of an opposite idea, which means urban farming, could be? We know that by urban farming we produce more locally, which has a dramatically lower environmental impact because we reduce air travel, we also reduce road traveling, and we also become independent from foreign sources. The Czech Republic supports, the Ministry of Agriculture supports small and medium-sized farmers and food producers who produce locally with the regional food label. It's called regional food, in Czech regionální potravina, which means that the food is produced in a particular place and no major transportation costs are needed. This brings me directly to our topic, which is urban farming. They can be a path to increase the food self-sufficiency in cities in the future in a larger scale. We can already see that there are some agricultural areas in larger cities. And what could the benefits of these urban farms be? First of all, it's locally produced food. It's eco-friendly. It's fresh because it's harvested and eaten basically immediately after the harvest. And you can also have seasonal products. No transportation costs are needed, which is something like nearshoring. We don't need any offshoring because we produce very locally. There is no need for packaging because the customers usually pick up personally and they will bring their own packaging. It also creates urban green areas or spaces in cities. There is a potential for rainwater retention, which is used for watering those plants. It also enables us to protect landscape from erosion. It mitigates heat consequences. It can reduce dust and noise in the center of cities, which become centers of biodiversity. And moreover, communities can be involved, as you will see in the last project. All these things basically lead to a better well-being in cities, which naturally increases urban resilience and the resilience of the citizens of these cities. One of the examples of these urban farms is Herba Fabrika, which is directly in the center of Prague. It's an urban farm and it focuses on growing local organic vegetables and herbs all year round without any use of chemicals. And the technology they use is hydroponic growing, which is, as we all know, growing in a solution of minerals and vitamins and nutrients that are needed by the plants without the need to have any kind of soil. These are a few pictures taken in the company. As you can see, they focus on these small green herbs that can be eaten instantly without cooking, and people usually come to pick up these small boxes personally, but they are also distributed in the local area. What are the achievements of the company? They have saved up to 95% compared to conventional farming, which is in an incredibly high number, 95%. They don't use any chemicals. As the products are grown locally and sold locally, no transportation is needed. It's not only about the financial benefits, but it's also about the reduced carbon footprint. And they only use recycled and compostable packaging. Another example is a company that is called Greenbox, also in Prague, in the center of Prague. There are two items they focus on. The first one is a hydroponic container, and the second one, which is in the picture 1, and the second picture displays a green vertical vegetable wall in a mall manifesto, again in Prague. What are the benefits of the container? It can be placed anywhere in any condition, as it is insulated. And another benefit is a very rapid growth of these herbs. The herbs grow in a week, and salads or lettuce in a month. And what is the benefit of the wall? The benefit is that it can lower the room temperature and maintain the microclimate, and it also seems to be very decorative. Another company is Micro Zelda, which is not in Prague, but in another major city of the country, far away in the east. It's again an urban farm in the center of Ostrava, and they also focus on hydroponic growing of microgreens, these young plants grown from seeds, which are considered to be superfood. And another project is St. Prokop's Orchards. We are back to Prague, and it's basically an educational farm and a social eco farm supported by the Ministry of Agriculture. And this company promotes organic farming. It cultivates organic fruit and processes fruit products without chemicals by the process of drying. They don't use any pesticides, and by all these things they increase biodiversity in the very center of the capital city. The orchard and the trees are cared for by people with disabilities or social disadvantages. And this is the idea I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation when I was talking that in these urban farms also people who create special communities, like community of disabled people or people who are socially disadvantaged, can take part and be very active in the production of various fruits, in this case, or herbs and other vegetables. This company was awarded an SME Enterprise Hero of Sustainability in 2022. You can see a picture from this company. It's harvesting strawberries, and the logo says that it's a social bio farm, like organic farm, with a tradition since 1997. We can see that it's a quarter of a century already, which means that it makes sense, it's sustainable, and it can easily be implemented, relatively easily be implemented, the concept of urban farming into our urban realities. And these are the sources for those who would be interested in getting more information about these companies directly. Thank you very much for your attention.
I'd like to thank Marcel from the distance for this inspiring presentation. It was great to see some kind of urban farming and around the cities with all these organic farming solutions. And that reminded me of a Hungarian company in Békés County, which is located in the southeastern part of Hungary. They produce containers, just like Marcel showed us, only a little bit smaller, but they are modular. So you can build long containers with microgreens. So it's in Hungary as well, but I haven't seen as many examples as Marcel showed us from the Czech Republic. So I think it's useful. And to our new guests, for example, Daniel, I tell that all of these presentations and the recording will be available free of charge on our webpage and on our YouTube channel in a few weeks. So maybe you can use it for your own work for the project. And also, I saw that you allowed us to share your LinkedIn profile link. So we will send your link to Marcel so you can connect and maybe you can have some projects together.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, I'd like to ask our colleague in the team of this Ceures project, Annika Lundqvist from Poland, to tell us a little bit about the Urban Transit Lab for Voices of Sustainable Mobility. It's a Polish example. Annika, the virtual floor is yours now.
Okay, thank you. Really briefly, I want to say I also enjoyed the urban farms presentation and also hearing about urban farm example in the Hungarian context. And microgreens are very nutritious. It was very exciting seeing the cultivation in urban settings. So I will share my screen. Okay. Should I enter full screen here? Is that okay, or should I enter full screen?
We see it as long as it's comfortable for you.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Okay, so the topic here is Urban Voices for Urban Transit Lab for Voices of Sustainability. And right at the onset here, I have to confess something. This is my own initiative along with the co-founder and with the blessing and encouragement of my supervisor, Ava, who is present. We decided to include this because it is interesting, and while it's not completely unique on the planet, it is something that we feel is interesting for Visegrad. And it's something that I've created myself with my project partner. Okay. So Urban Transit Lab, we'll put it under the pillar of climate change. It's relating to climate action and the category of mobility behaviors. The project started, we had our pilot in Warsaw, right here in Warsaw. So the Urban Transit Lab is a participatory media. It means involving the community in the process of creating the media, research and communication initiative. And I'm framing this as an emergent best practice for adaptation, hopefully for adaptation across the Visegrad region with partners across the V4 countries. It was founded by myself and my project partner, Alan, based in Spain, actually. He was here for the launch in Warsaw. And the program is actually designed to shape and meet the needs of diverse partners. So when I go through this, please keep that in mind, that we've designed it to be flexible and also to grow, to meet the needs of different places, different groups of people. So why media? Why is it a participatory media project? Well, through my ongoing work at Pedestrian Space with media advocacy, my ongoing interest in media, and now embedding this participatory media approach in this project, we see media itself as a form of action. I would be doubtful that a single one of us here doesn't spend at least some time during the day engaging with media, print, digital, news, entertainment. Media affects our awareness, it affects our choices, it affects our consciousness. So we believe in the power of media, both negative and positive and neutral. And the point of this is to use that power of media to involve partners and involve the community, the people themselves, the inhabitants of cities, to create storytelling and content around mobility and around their experiences with sustainable mobility. So I want to point over here to this. When we refer to mobility decisions, this is also a core feature of my dissertation, which is I'm doing here in Warsaw with the supervision of Ava, also who welcomed me to this project. Mobility choice is about when we step out of our door? What options do we have available to us, you know, within a reasonable distance? Some of us have a car, you know, in our garage, but there's also a bus stop and a bike in our, you know, parked by our home. Some of us have a tram, you know, a couple blocks away, or a metro. So what are our choices? Then what are the decisions we make based on those choices? And then at Urban Transit Lab, we're looking at, of course, how sustainable mobility connects to climate action, issues of transportation equity, and then, of course, how this all ties into issues of accessibility in public space. And for those of you who don't recognize this, this is a metro stop in Warsaw here, pictured. So getting into just a tiny bit of data, of course, you know, sustainable urban mobility is one of the contemporary challenges across the world. It's very highlighted in Europe. Sustainable urban mobility plans are being required, I think, across cities to be able to be eligible for EU funds. So I won't read all this, and I've highlighted promoting sustainable mobility culture. That's a big part of Urban Transit Lab, but we're also looking at all these other issues. Of course, also improving livability of cities, reduction of car dependence, which is a major goal of sustainable urban mobility plans. And of course, prioritization of movement by foot, bike, public transportation. So I don't know if any of you have seen these mobility pyramids that are, you know, flipped. We're prioritizing walking and running, cycling, sustainable transit. And I'm sure if any of you go to your city's websites and start digging around, if you're not already aware, there might be a SUMP, a Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, that has already been published or is underway. I believe Warsaw just published its first one last year. Again, you can find so many of these if you search for sustainable transport hierarchy or mobility pyramid. So now back to Urban Transit Lab. This was a pilot project that we did last year with the Public Transit Authority, the Warsaw Public Transit Authority, WTP in Polish here. And through the partnership, the agency provided 8 free monthly passes for the program. And then we had an application process. We had applicants, and those 8 that were chosen activated their passes through the month of October. And then as part of the program, they sent to us content weekly. It was due on Friday with a little bit of wiggle room to Sunday. So each week we got content from 8 different people. The content was shaped around reflecting on aspects of their commute. Warsaw's public transportation system is diverse and dynamic. It would be great to hear who here has been to Warsaw and what your experience has been. There's buses, there's trams, there's metro, there's an urban rapid rail system, and the city is investing so much right now in improvements and new lines and connecting up places that have really poor connectivity. So the participants of this program were welcome to produce media content. They were very free with the medium. So it could be writing, photography, graphics, could be fine art, could be watercolor. They were very free. It was just imperative that they submit on a weekly basis. So what were some innovative, excellent elements of the best practice? A really core feature is that it's bottom up. It's not the city telling people what's good about public transit. It's inhabitants themselves saying, this is what we see here. I do want to mention that for this pilot, since it was in partnership with the municipal agency, one of the biggest risks was PR risks. A municipal agency isn't going to want to necessarily give out free passes to have participants then report a lot of negative things. So this pilot was really devoted to putting out a positive view of sustainable mobility and public transit. And luckily, I think we had a great city in which to do that, because the public transit system here is, again, diverse and robust and flexible. And of course, this highlights civic engagement and also brings in arts and media in the mobility space, which is a little unusual, right? There are other programs like this, but I think there could be more. So that's why we're excited about putting it out there. And also one thing that I think is exciting about this, and that is also kind of a quiet best practice, is that mobility is something that unites us all. We all need to move around our cities. But it's not necessarily something that people are excited to talk about. You know, when you meet your friends for drinks, you might complain a little bit about how hard it was to find parking or that the bus was late. But this is outside of the people within mobility or urban planning circles. This is not something that people sit around at length and talk about. But we are offering a space for people to actually, you know, vent, unload. And also there's a lot of people in the community that if you give them the opportunity, they actually have quite a lot to share about their commute. This is something that is a common feature for all humans living in cities and other environments. So another best practice is that we're offering stakeholders lesser used techniques to connect with the public. Public transit authorities aren't typically going to use artistic techniques to communicate and connect with the public. They're going to probably use surveys, etc., right? So we're offering this sort of different means to connect in addition to surveys. So you can see here, we connect via social media application processes, in-person meetings, mid and post-program surveys. I will list here's some examples of what was produced in our pilot. And we had translations to Polish. What was exciting about our pilot, this young woman and another woman, they were students on Erasmus from Turkey. So we accepted 2 women from Turkey who were urban planners working in the field of mobility. So for them, this was really exciting to get connected to Poland's capital and also produce thoughts about, document their experiences on public transportation. We had another woman who lives in Warsaw, but is from India, is so passionate about public transportation. So she was able to, also a mother, she was able to bring her passion for actually Warsaw itself and for public transportation. So I want to share here, we asked our participants, you know, what they learned. And here somebody says, I wanted to learn some more theory, you know, about statistics about the Public Transit Authority, and this program inspired them to do so. I realized how having a monthly ticket can give you a sense of freedom and motivation to use public transport. This was a small pilot, right? We just had 8 people, and this is just 5 responses, but imagine this on a greater scale. We asked if they tried any new modes. So, you know, some of them had just tried urban rapid rail for the first time, which is exciting. So really imagine that on a bigger scale with more participants. This is all produced by the participants. This program encouraged me to travel by public transportation. It was beneficial for my professional experience as I'm an urban planner. I saw that walkability is at the forefront in the city of Warsaw. We had one participant who was very technical, really wanted to get into facts, and did research through the program about the opening of the first section of the Warsaw Metro. This pilot also captured, I think, pride in place. And also we had, again, some international participants, which is always interesting to get the internationals' outlook versus the local. The locals have, I would say, a higher level of critique because they use the system so much. So that was really interesting. And then to also mix them and put them in a room together. We should talk about how public transit is a normal thing, right? So for future programs where we might want to offer first-time experiences, for example, for people who are dependent on cars, this is going to be really interesting to be able to refer back to the pilot. I'm happy that we got the transport tickets. It makes you feel like being part of an experience. Here at Urban Transit Lab, we view the commute as content. We see the mobility experience itself as so rich for storytelling. Adaptation possibilities, I won't read all of this, But the adaptation possibilities are great. The idea is, again, as I said earlier, to be flexible to diverse partnership needs. A partner could come to us and say, we really want to know about the needs of pregnant women using public transit, or we want to know about the needs of elderly retired residents in a specific neighborhood, or the needs of women or men in this particular neighborhood, or the needs of people using a wheelchair and what we're lacking. We want to use this program to document the barriers so we can improve. So the adaptation possibilities are really diverse. And in terms of limitations, for Visegrad, I would say this is adaptable to any community as we focus on mobility, which is a common and shared needs of humans across cultural and geographic contexts. And here, if you want to jot down, you can connect with us and see more, of course, more media from our participants there. That's the end. I'll just leave it up for a moment in case anybody wants those. Okay, and you can ask me in the chat if you need.
Thank you, Annika, and congratulations to your project. And I will have some questions in the Q&A session because I think we could do something here in Budapest as well.
I would love to. I was there once, and I think we rode the metro. But it would be great to, again, like as I mentioned, I believe there's a lot of potential, and I think in an earlier meeting, I mean, you David also reflected on the shared heritage of public transit before the 90s. I believe it was like 90% of modal share public transit. Modal share. So there's a really good backbone in a lot of our cities here. So I would love to. That will be great. We'll talk more.
Okay, I see you in the Q&A session again. Thank you. And our next expert is from Slovakia. Valeria will tell us a little bit about volunteer-based cooperation to integrate war refugees in Banska Štiavnica. I hope I pronounce it well. I think there is some problem with your voice. Well, it's only 20%, I think. Christian, do you hear that cracking up? Oh, you're muted, Christian.
Yeah, I almost hear her.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's some kind of problem maybe with the internet connection. So I suggest that Christian, could you please hold this next presentation about digitization of in-kind social services, and meanwhile I hope Valeria's sound problem will be fixed. So we make a change.
Okay, we can start the order. So then I switch to my screen, and
thank you for this. Okay, we see that.
Almost, because this is a print view. Now I have to put it inside, and is it visible for everybody?
Yes, but yes, this way, yes.
Okay, this way, because I keep my left lane for reminder. Okay, I'm warmly welcome the participants and the guests of this online workshop. I choose the topic of my presentation today because I wanted to present a good practice on how a city, or in this case a district, can respond to an unexpected challenge that affects almost all fields, areas of life, the epidemic or pandemic, or so-called COVID emergency, with an innovation that can quickly reacts and preserves all the advantages of the previous solutions and forges a long-term advantage from the emergency situation. Before I present the specific good practice, I will briefly present the context in which we can take a look for the service development. At Urban Development Association, we are focusing on these three dimensions of urban development, and I used to say that the sweet spot is the middle segment of this chart, when an invention focuses on both three pillars of urban development, both three dimensions, but it's not necessary. There are many inventions which focusing on one or two dimensions of these. But if we stay at the service development, the theory is that the goal, one goal can be the provision of the new or higher quality city services for the same cost. That can be one of the goals. Or the other goal, if we have an existing service with an exact service level, we can provide that at a lower cost. That means we can provide it more efficiently. And in the very, very lucky cases, we can target both goals. And that's how it happened in this case. But before we move to the exact best practice, let me focus on the challenges in developing municipal services, because these are different than the services on the in the private sector. We should see that the compliance is the most important issue, which makes it more complicated, like in development in the private sector, because all the conditions are laid down in detailed laws. These are central country laws or local regulations, and of course the offices, the municipalities, the mayor's office has a very detailed own regulation of operation, and developing a service usually affects all these regular fields. So the compliance is the first issue. Of course, the processes are mostly compound. That's why it's much more slower change these processes, and also the decision levels and decision process also makes it much more slower than in the private sector. We have a vision of a paper-free world, but sticking to the reality now, it's most community municipalities paper-based operations, so that's why it also complicates these processes. And I think, by my opinion, one of the key elements and the most difficult point in each of these service developments is the eligibility verification, because all of the, or most of the municipality services, the client has to be verified. You have to check the ID, identity, address, income, social status. So that's why these services must be provided before a strict and documented verification process. There are also some opposition between the expectation of the clients and the requirements of the municipality. That it's well known that the clients want quick processes, flexibility, customer-friendly services, which means, in my opinion, that the services are easily accessible with little or less bureaucracy. on the opposite side, the municipality has requirements of legal compliance, as we mentioned before, transparency, the documentability, and the cost effectiveness, which I must say that not only the requirement of the municipality, but also the electors are wanting cost-effective services in a city level. And now I turn on our best practice, which was invented in Budapest 13th district. This is an average size or populated district of Budapest. The income is in the middle of the between the Budapest districts. This is a dense populated urban district, so really a district which has a good field for such innovations. If we take a look on the income status of the 13th district, it's not in the most rich between the most rich districts, but it's in the middle somewhere. And the aim was this social service development project is during COVID to place the in-kind social services into a virtual sphere, into a virtual field to keep these services running. Because the social services traditionally a personal service which requires personal contact, and that's why during the pandemic it came to into conflict with safety, which became then the most important value. So the municipalities answer to the challenge is to revise the existing methods and move them into the virtual space. Let's take a quick look on the local government's in-kind support forms. So these were actually physically printed vouchers for food, medicine, for the school start that was once in a year, baby care also were connecting to a new goal. But the medicine and the food vouchers were issued regularly for the people in need. So they received it monthly or bi-monthly, half in a year. So each different service involved more printed voucher issuing. Then we move to the next slide. The process was this way, and each arrow represents a physical path, a physical journey needed. So when somebody tried to apply for a voucher, had to visit the mayor's office, and the municipality social welfare department checked the eligibility. Then the approved applicant got the vouchers and had to visit one of the shops. So the shops where he could redeem the vouchers, and then the shop visited the municipality to account for the payment of the value of the vouchers. So the whole process was physical. Then they had already an existing application, city application, which was very rapidly developed to replace this process with a virtual way of vouchering. And as a new service, the electronic route between the applicant citizen, the municipality, the approved client. The approved client and the citizen is the same person, but before and after validation of the claim. And then this existing mobile application was adapted for emergency situations, and they added a new module which can also help in the validation of the applicant, and also can use for the validation or the identification the partner, I mean the shop. So the shops also could register via the online platform. They didn't need to visit the mayor's office during the pandemic. Then this way, this necessity could be made, the municipality could make a virtue out of the necessity, because originally it was fitting their strategic goal, which was adopted in the Smart 13 Action Plan. So that was one of the key elements why they could easily adopt these changes, because when they made the legal environment in around 2015, they already had the vision of making possible to virtualize some of the social services. So when COVID came in, they didn't need to change the legal environment for this situation, and that's why it was a very, very thoughtful mention from the municipality. And now we can see on the picture is the Lehel Market Hall, which one of the places where these vouchers can be redeemed. But if we see the process after COVID, we see that all of the elements of the before mentioned process could made via this online application and platform. And the results were quite outstanding in those aspects, that those in need had easy access to the municipal voucher. They delivered it directly to the store, but in a virtual form, so they could simply use it. And it affected more than 10,000 people in 2020. The people could ask for home delivery for the product, so even they didn't need to visit the shop. And between the shop and the client, the voucher could be used via this application. And there were one more big advantage of this solution, that the voucher could only be used by the approved person, so the possibility of misuse, or for example selling the voucher, something like that, was no longer possible. And the stores accepting vouchers could operate more predictably. This was also very important during COVID. So these vouchers helped them to keep their employees and operate safely during COVID as well. So during the pandemic, based on the feedback, the turnover of the cooperating stores did not decrease, and the social store network even saw an increase. So that was a really mentionable result. And in 2020, there were nearly 80 voucher redeeming shop partners who were contracted. So because of these results, and that's why they could parallelly raise the service level and operate it in a very difficult situation, and made this a virtue. we at the Urban Development Association found it mentionable for a service development award. So that's why we gave this award for them. I would gladly answer any question in the Q&A session, and thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Christian. And yes, I remember this project. This was awarded the first Urban Development Award ceremony back in the old days. Well, I saw that the background at Valeria's place has changed, so maybe you're at another place or with another computer. Let's just try the voice, would we?
Yes. Some measures, but no. I may look at the computer.
Okay, now it's good.
Really?
Don't click on anything else. Now it's working.
Okay.
Please share your screen, Valeria.
Okay, then. So let me now please share my presentation. I would like to present, well, at least one, but maybe two case studies. Both of them are from Slovakia, and the pillar is the war. So the situation is more or less identical. Two cities, two communities had to deal with an influx of Ukrainian war refugees. So I'm sharing the first.
So it's a practical example from one of the Slovakian settlements. Yes,
yes, definitely. So it is an example from Banská Štiavnica. It is a town in the central region of Slovakia. I will try to. Okay. So the basic situation was when the first refugees arrived to Banská Štiavnica. Actually, there was a group of volunteers who have been working together also beforehand. They were the first to start to deal with this situation. As a first help, they were able to offer an accommodation, and that was for a group of people, so not only one or two, and that was because one of the members of this volunteer group was an entrepreneur who had a hostel in Banská Štiavnica, which had also premises for community activities. So in this hostel, the first refugees were accommodated. And as time passed, everybody started to see that it will not be for a week and not even two. So the volunteers realized that it will be something long-term. They need to integrate also the Ukrainian refugees. So they widened their own circle. They were able to recruit up to 30 collaborators, volunteers, and using their contacts in the region, they were able to set up a network of employers who were able to get short-term or longer-term work contracts to Ukrainian people. As a result of this, up to, let me check the number, up to 100 persons were employed. This is a cumulative number. I have to tell because we have to keep in mind the fact that the situation of the migrants is rather changing. So some are coming, others are leaving. So it's always, the numbers are always changing, but this 100 persons, it was from the beginning up till now, and it is a cumulative number. And the volunteers, the refugees also had to learn the language, but there was a state program in which they were able to learn the basics of Slovak. What I found interesting in this case study is that only a really bunch of people, small bunch of people, was able to set up an employer network, and thanks to greatly the fact that they were, some of them were also entrepreneurs. And what I see very good point in this case study, that they had some kind of premises. They had a place to meet, to stay, so, and also to accommodate people. So they were able to solve greatly the situation of the refugees. Another maybe surprising thing was that I have spoken to one of the members of this volunteer group, and he said that the municipality of Banská Štiavnica remained rather passive. So they administer the state programs, but basically this great help, because finding work is a really great help to the newcomers, and this great work was done by the volunteer group. So these are the results listed. They had about 500 refugees who again came and left, and they were able to accommodate this number of people. Again, this is a cumulative number. And the 100 refugees who were employed, and 100 children who took part in any kind of children's activities or common programs, cultural events, or workshops. So yes, again, the excellent elements of this case study are that the volunteers were the first to help, because the municipality was a little bit behind and stayed passive during most of the time. And it was very good that they had a base and infrastructural background. And another positive thing that helped, that they were able to deal with the flood of refugees, was that it was an established core of volunteers already. So they have working together beforehand. And that the focus was on employment, because once you are a refugee and you have an income, you can really start to integrate. And when refugees are integrating, you lower the risk of social unrest, so to say. So that was my first project, and I would like to quickly show the other one, which is from my town. It's from Šamorín. You will see at the end that they have some common points and also some different points. The first refugees to Šamorín similarly came just days after the war started. And they started to gather around the public library, because the first person who helped them was actually a Ukrainian born person who's living in Šamorín for more than 10 years, 15 years now. So she was the first contact, and also the first translator and the first organizer. But she quickly got into contact with the municipality, and together they made a really good team. One good thing I would like to emphasize is, in the case of Šamorín, that it has a really good crisis committee, which was tested during the COVID period, and now they had a new task dealing with the refugees. So they were, I think, actually the central organizing, informing, and also financing institution, because before the state money came down to the municipalities, the town also did some expenditures for the need of these people. The situation here concerning the accommodation was a little bit different than in Banská Štiavnica, because there was no apparent place to stay, and there was the municipality, and all the municipal buildings are in use somehow. So the information spread among the refugees that they can use the nearby retention center, which is built for migrants for temporary stays. So most of the refugees who came to Šamorín and did not have direct contacts to families who would accommodate them, they then later left to this retention center, which is about maybe 20 kilometers from here, so it's not far. And in this case, the municipality helped them receiving supplies, especially food and some other necessities, also clothes and hygienic necessities. So I mentioned it was an immediate help, and it was a great organizing and leading help. The results after 18 months of war was about, well, also a similar number, about 500 refugees were helped in various ways, or by supplies or by accommodation. And there were in the public library, which became actually an info point for the refugees and the place of regular meetings several times a week, and also a place of workshops for the children. There were about 30 children that were taking part in different kinds of activities. Methods of funding. I think most of the work was done by voluntary work. Okay, do you see my presentation?
Oh, well, Valeria, I just noticed that you wanted to show another presentation, so and we didn't see that, but I shared my screen, and now it's visible because I have your presentation. So please continue. Please continue.
Fine. So most of the work was done by voluntary work, but the municipality, before any kind of state support for the refugees arrived, it spent more than 7,000 euros for the most urgent needs of these refugees. And this slide shares the activities, and well, it's the end of the presentation, but I would like to just make a comparison between these two cases. So the starting point was very similar to both towns. Refugees came who needed urgent help. And in both cities, they received the appropriate help. So the situation was different, because in Banská Štiavnica they had an accommodation facility. The people could stay there, and there were good contacts to employers, and that's why they were able to set up an employer network. In Šamorín, so it was mostly about helping anyone who got into the town, whether he would stay there or he would leave. And I would like to emphasize also the role of the town. So in one case, it was totally passive. So you can see from one case study that just a few people, a group of volunteers, can make a really big difference. And in other case, it is like, how many good things can a municipality do if it wants. So yeah, I think that's about it. So there are similarities, but also differences in these cases, and in both cases I consider both of them good best practice, because they were able to solve the situation of the refugees. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie, and thank you all I always like and enjoy to learn from the colleagues here in Central Europe. And let me open the Q&A session. And also, as host, let me ask a few questions first. Annika, as I mentioned, I found your project very interesting. I would like to ask, where were the media contents used that were created during this project? And what could be the next level on a larger scale for a project like this?
Excuse me. Thank you. Those are great questions. So if you go to if you're on Twitter or Instagram, look up @Urban Transit Lab. We also have an Urban Transit Lab LinkedIn page and Facebook. So we're on 4 platforms. If you are not a busy social media minded person, we will be putting up some of the media on the website. But this is something we're thinking about, like how to use, because we have 8 participants who sent something once a week. So we have, and some of them sent like multiple media layers, like not just one photo, but multiple photos plus a short essay. So we have a lot of content. So the idea exactly is how to properly use that. Of course, we're in this era where many people are connected up on social media. So that's our first, that's our first goal, is to put things out there. So you can see, if you go to those diverse platforms, you can see a lot of the Warsaw content. Maybe after a few projects, we'll think about doing like a special edition magazine that could be picked up and also looked at by potential partners, or accessed digitally, so you can download a magazine and flip through and see stories from Warsaw, stories from Budapest, stories from Pilsen, stories from Bratislava, etc. Next level, we are open to and looking for partnerships with diverse groups. It could be a municipal authority, it could be a research institute, it could be an NGO. And we definitely want partnerships that also get into diverse needs. So as I said during the presentation, maybe somebody in Budapest will say, we're really curious about the needs of university students on Friday and Saturday night, and what are their sustainable mobility options coming home from, being out and about, having a great time as students do, or other people of the city. What are the late night sustainable urban mobility options? Is safety an issue? Is this an issue? Is, accessibility, frequency? And then, of course, something that's pretty much uniform across cities is making things more accessible for people using a wheelchair, a stroller, a walker, people with mobility impairment temporarily, using crutches. So a partnership could be about identifying barriers, right? So our pilot, I call our pilot like a really pure celebration of sustainable mobility, but the next level is to get into diverse partnerships and programming that also look at not only best practices, but barriers, because across Europe, as we all know, cities are looking to improve and being required to develop sustainable urban mobility plans with all the challenges that brings. So the next level would be to communicate with people like yourself, David, and say what could be interesting from a mobility storytelling standpoint in Budapest, and really get into diverse storytelling, because I think this is something, it's not new. There are other groups that have done it, but it's not common. And we think it's very fresh and really gets people excited. I hope you can feel my excitement. I can talk, as my supervisor knows, I can talk about mobility all day long. And I want to bring that excitement to people, even if they're struggling, because we want to hear about the difficult cases too. So I'll leave it at that. Any other questions?
Thank you, Annika. And Eva indicated that she would like to have her say. Please.
Yes, I just wanted to add, because I think, Annika, we are also thinking about applying the Urban Transit Lab methodology in some wider international projects, and we're basically at during an application phase right now. So this is something which is developing, definitely, because I think I want to stress this, that I'm extremely proud. I'm bursting with pride in terms of the of this I would say completely independent and grassroots initiative, because it's scientific, but it's grassroots, right? This is something that that Annika has developed, and Alan. And this is something which is really worth developing. So I would like to stress that. Yeah.
Thank you for the addition. I have two things in mind, and I tell this also Jula and Christian. One thing is that there is an annual community budgeting in Budapest by the local government of Budapest. So it could be a project idea to boost the sustainable mobility. This project idea could be built on this urban transit lab method, but we could use maybe other media partners, influencers as well. That was one top. And another one is that on the 1st of February, we are going to establish an urban lab with one of the districts of Budapest. And this could be a topic in this urban lab later. So I see, Jula, you agree. Thank you for that. And Christian, please have your say too.
I also want to connect to Annika's presentation with an announcement, which it's a very fresh information. I was exchanging a few words with the vice city mayor of the 13th district before my presentation, just to ask her about what are their future plans with this city application. And she told me a very interesting initiative for supporting public transportation and pedestrian transportation, that this application will get a new feature which will give this application is monitoring your transport routes, and if the application finds that you are using public transport or go by foot, then it will reward you with points which can be converted to discounts for the partners of the municipality. These discounts are given by the partners, voluntary partners, and if you're gaining enough points by using the public transportation or walking around, then you can exchange these points in these shops. And it also has not only an effect not only to the transportation habits, but also helps the local economy, because if you are walking around, then the chances that you are visiting a local shop is much more higher than if you are go by car and just move in between spot to spot. So it's a very innovative way of thinking, and maybe once it will be worth for a presentation itself. That's the only thing I want to add to Annika's issue.
Thank you, Christian. That's a great addition. Thank you. And Annika, please respond to all that.
Okay, well, that was very interesting to hear. I like that about the perks, and also pedestrianization in local economies, a really interesting topic. But David, really briefly, I wanted to hear, with your interest, I wanted to hear just what excites you about it, or in general, what excites you about mobility, or what excites you about the potential for UTL. It's interesting to get such a perspective from you.
Okay. Well, let me add that, for example, the problem of Budapest is that a lot of people use their cars to get in from the metropolitan area, the city, to work, or to run errands. And just like in every metropolitan areas, in the morning hours, the rush hours, there are traffic congestions. And after the work, there are traffic congestions on the way out. So when it comes to the residents of Budapest, usually the transports or the travels within the boundaries of the city have a 2/3 share, which originates from within the city to somewhere in the city. So around 60–70% of all the travels within the boundaries of Budapest are taken by public transportation. And only around one third of these travels are taken by car. But if we examine metropolitan area around the boundaries of Budapest, we see that 2/3 of those travels to Budapest center or some other districts are taken by car. So it's reversed. And we would need boost of public transportation usage. And this urban transit lab method could be one piece of the puzzle in this great program. We would like to have the people to use the public transportation, but for that they need to believe and they need to see that it's worth to use it. So the perspective is exciting for me because of that. I use the public transportation, but I'm in the 1/3.
I think hearing about the heritage through such a program, also getting into the heritage and history of the public transit system in Budapest could be really interesting.
Yes, and let me just a thought about the soft power of these media contents. And just let me mention an early influencer, Al Pacino. I don't know whether you've seen the old movie Devil's Advocate. Yes, Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves. Yes, and there's a line for Al Pacino in that movie about public transportation in New York. And Al Pacino tells the character of Keanu Reeves that Kevin Lomax was his name, Kevin, learn to use the subway system. Only way I travel. And I think that one line made a lot of people try New York subway system. So sometimes small things are very important. But that was just a thought. But Valeria,
Okay.
yeah, okay, Annika, please.
Oh no, but I'll we'll quote when we get into a collaboration. Let's use the quote in the project.
Okay, learn to use the Budapest subway system. Maybe we should hire Al Pacino to do a cameo in that advertisement. But before we close the open session, Valeria, please do me a favor and answer some questions, because I found this very interesting, this project. And I understand that it's important that the refugees feel useful, having self-respect, because I'm useful for the community, I have work. It's a huge step. But didn't you experience any tensions between Slovakian unemployed people and Ukrainian refugees? How was it handled? And my other question is, how did they manage to overcome language problems? These are my two questions.
Okay, unmuted. So for the first question, whether there were any tensions between Slovak employment and the so unemployed and the Ukrainian refugees. Actually, the employment situation in Slovakia is in almost like negative numbers. So it seems that when somebody wants to work, he will definitely find some work, and somebody who does not, it is likely that it is a layer of the society who would say bad things to the refugees, that the refugee has taken my work, but I don't really want to work on the other side. So not in my surroundings, I did not I did not see such a behavior, and nor from Banská Štiavnica, the volunteers did not report such a behavior, which doesn't mean that it wasn't experienced elsewhere. And the second question was about language problems. It was a huge problem because first, when the refugees came to Shamorin, okay, our community is greatly Hungarian speaking, but we all speak a very good Slovak. But also for the Slovaks, it wasn't quite easy to understand the Ukrainian because, well, we are just far from the border. We don't hear it. We are not used to it. So in the beginning, the Ukrainian-born lady who was living in the town, I was referring to her in my presentation. She did a lot of translations for the town, and she did it for free. And later the town already started to pay her at least something because she helped really so much. How I guess it was similar also in the workplaces. So they had to overcome this problem, despite the fact that there were language courses going on. So it's always, you have to have a few months of Slovak when you get into it and try to speak in order your employer will understand you.
Okay, and I see Eva has some experience in that, so please, Eva, share.
Well, not directly. I wanted to ask another question because I'm also working on a practice which is related to well, the period immediately after the the beginning of the war in the Ukraine. But my question is about the engagement of the municipality. Valeria, is it something, because of course I'm wondering, I'm thinking about the reasons behind such attitudes. This is one thing, of course, but then this might be a longer discussion. But first of all, I would say, has this approach been changing during, or let's say, with time, right? In Banská Štiavnica, is this something that, let's say, was maybe hesitant in the beginning, and then with time something has been developing in the direction of acceptance and also reaction to the problem?
I asked this same question to my respondent, to one of the volunteers group, and he said that apparently is more or less the same. So it seems the municipality is only administering the state money. It is doing some registration stuff and maybe some little projects, but the core work is in the hands of this NGO or group or volunteer group.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's really interesting. These differences between the between the engagement, but also the level of I would say not only the level of involvement, but also the level of acceptance, right? Because these are two different issues. Yes, also something to explore. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope these case studies, I wanted to present them both side by side because it is a very interesting phenomenon in this, that both things are good, but there are different main actors.
Yes, and you've made an excellent point here, so thank you.
And also the team members can find now the presentations in a common folder for today's presentations as well. So both of Valeria's presentation. Technically, I thank you all for participating in this workshop. Now we have some internal issues to discuss with the project team. And I'd like to say goodbye to all of our other guests. Thank you. And I ask our team members whether you need a 5-minute break, technical break. Okay, Yula, you need one. So let's just meet at 35, okay? And we will have another 15 minutes discussion about